What's going on, guys? So this is part 3 and hopefully the hopefully the final part of this project. So in the previous 2 parts we discussed doing the prep work, shopping for everything we need to complete the project, and the last step I think was me prepping the room before actually doing any kind of painting. So there's been a couple of things that I need to go over because there's been a couple of slight changes that I made between the last video and today. So, a couple of things. First, I want to go over the paint, picking out the paint process, because there's been a couple of things that I was unaware about, and hopefully this is going to help anybody who's watching. So, as you can see, this is all the samples of the paint that I got. So, my wife and I, we decided to go with Benjamin Moore. So we went to Benjamin Moore store right next to our house, and as you can see on the wall, what we did is we would buy a couple of samples of paint and we would just try it on. So this is what a sample of paint looks like. This goes for about $6. We would purchase 3-4 at a time. I think altogether we got about 15-16 samples because it was not easy. So we would apply about 2 coats, just apply 1 coat, wait about 15 minutes, then apply the second coat. Let it dry, and then we'd look at the paint during daylight, and then how it would look like with, at night, just with like regular house lights. And as you can see, I applied all the samples here, and we kind of analyzed and try to pick the best one. So because the furniture in this room was going to be darker, at first we picked out a dark color, but then we realized it would be too dark. So we decided to go with something lighter, and finally the color we picked out is this color right here. So this and this is actually the same color. So here's the catch. Once we picked out this color, which is OC82, that's the color coding for it in Benjamin Moore. So picked out this color based on a sample, we liked it, and yesterday I went to a Benjamin Moore store, a different one, which is located by my job. By the way, there's no official Benjamin Moore store. They're all retailers, so they're all individually owned. Sometimes it's a little department inside a hardware store. So I went to one of these places right next to my job, and I gave the guy, the code, and I told him what kind of paint I want, which is eggshell. So I wanted eggshell, and also the type of paint, I wanted it to be Ben, because I think there's many lines of paint in Benjamin Moore. So I wanted Ben, OC82 Pompeii, and I wanted an eggshell finish. So the guy gave me, I think this is it right here. He gave me like 1 liter, and yesterday when I came home, the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to apply it on the wall just to make sure it's going to be exactly the same. So this is it right here. As you can see, it's not the same paint. Well, the color is not the same. I'm not sure what happened. So this morning, I went to the Benjamin Moore store, which is right by my house, where I got the sample, and I didn't say anything. All I did is I just got the same color in the sample, so OC82, the same color code, and I just got it. This is it right here, the full gallon of it. So I applied it right here. Now, as you can see, it matches perfectly the sample. I'm not really sure what happened. I'm not sure why one Benjamin Moore store gave me the same color code, but it looks completely different. Well, I don't want to say completely different, but it's different enough. Versus the other Benjamin Moore location, which gave me the same color code, and they look the same. So this is just a little something for anybody who's watching. Just keep a close eye on that. Basically, I would advise you to get all the paint in the same location, because same location, everything matched for me. Different locations, they were different. I don't know. I'm not sure why. If anybody has an answer, maybe you guys can write it in the comments. So that's as far as the paint. Now, there's been a couple of small changes as far as the sandpaper. So what I decided to do is, after we applied the spackling paste, let it dry, and I sanded it down. I got sandpaper grade 120 and 180. So 180 was actually perfect. I used 120 in the beginning, just in the very beginning slightly, and then finished it off with 180. It gave me this perfectly smooth finish all over the walls. Now, as far as the brush, so here's the actual brush that I decided to go with. I got it at Home Depot. It's the Purdy XL polyester. It's medium stiff. I think this is good for all the surfaces, and I'm not a professional painter, but it works fine. I really like this brush. It was like $15. So you can paint and wash it off. So that's as far as the brush I got. So this is going to be used, by the way. So I used this when I did all the moldings. As you guys can see, I already painted all the moldings and everything around the window. I'll show you in a second. So I painted the moldings with this latex eggshell China white paint. The windows as well. The window moldings and then the moldings on the bottom and around the doors. So I painted everything with latex eggshell China white paint using this brush. Then just washed everything off with water and soap. Let it dry. I think I did 2 coats as well. I let it dry and then I just put the Scotch tape to separate it from the wall, because I'm going to paint the walls next. I don't want the paint from the wall to drip onto the moldings. So that's as far as the brush. Alright guys, and another thing we discussed last video is this metal heater protector. So what I did last time is I took all the 500 coats of the old paint off. I scrubbed off as much rust as I could using the metal brush. And then what I needed to do is apply the primer. So the primer that I got last time was in a spray can. It was the same brand, it was a Rust-Oleum, but it was in a spray can. And what I realized is if I'm gonna spray paint the primer on here, yeah, it's gonna get everywhere nicely. However, it's gonna go all over the room as well, all over my face. So it's not too convenient to use indoors. So I went back to Home Depot and I purchased this, which is the same brand. It's a Rust-Oleum, but this is the primer, the metal primer that I can apply using the paintbrush. So everything went smoothly. As you can see, I applied it. It's nice and smooth, looks great. Now it's ready to be painted over. So here's a little catch for anybody else who's going to use it. So if you're applying this primer onto the metal, just get a brush specifically to use with this primer, because the primer is not going to wash off the paintbrush. So now that I got all the moldings painted, I got the window moldings, all the perimeter around the window, everything is the window frame, everything is painted. The metal cover for the heater, nicely primed, everything is ready to go, everything is dry. The next step is going to be to apply 2 coats of paint, all over the surfaces, which is the walls. Now, obviously, as you can see, another thing that I did, after I painted and applied the primer where I needed it to be, I took the Scotch tape and I sealed off the windows, the moldings, and the doors to make sure that the paint that I'm going to be painting the walls with is not going to get on any of the things that I already painted over. Let's go on to the next step and let's paint. So here's a quick overview of what everything looks like now before we paint it. As you can see, I have the Scotch tape applied everywhere to protect it from the paint that I'm going to be painting the walls with, because I already painted the moldings. When I was painting the moldings, I also protected the doors with the paint. So everything is ready to go. And this is my setup with all the 500 samples that I used. So now we're ready to paint. So the good news is the room is done, 100%. All the walls you can see are painted. I took the Scotch tape off the moldings, cleaned everything up, everything is ready to go. I'll show you all the walls in just 1 second. My wife approved of this job, which is the most important thing. Actually, right this minute, anytime now I'm waiting for people from IKEA to come, because they're gonna bring in the new furniture that we ordered for the nursery. So we'll see how that works out. Everything went as planned. Painted it with the Benjamin Moore paint. Used 2 coats, which is I guess the standard way of painting. Painted the moldings. So everything went good. I'm actually very happy. So let me give you a quick tour. So next thing is basically the furniture. The furniture is actually going to be here in anytime. The guys just called, they're in the way. So it's going to be IKEA furniture delivered here in the next 10 minutes. So let's see how that's going to look. See you soon.